Okay, now, next question. Can you hear me? Now we'll stop typing, and you guys will have to type at me to tell me whether you can actually hear what I'm saying. All right, I see levels anyway. If I change from the cats to myself. Can you see me now? You should be able to see me. Yes. Good. All right. Good. The welcome to my test run of the new Wirecast YouTube Live thing. I'm hearing a slight echo of myself. Hang on, why? All right, now the echo is off. Can you all still hear me? Is the next question. So I have I can see I have a monitor that is showing me what should be going out to the world, but it's a good 15, maybe 20 seconds behind what I'm seeing on what I'm doing live and what I'm seeing on my screen. So there's always going to be this little bit of lag while it processes through YouTube and through my machine and so forth and so on. It keeps telling me don't use more than 80% of your CPU. I'm like, software, I'm not in charge of that. You're in charge of that. And it's telling me I'm at 78%. So I guess if it goes over 80, it may start to glitch. We'll find out. So as some of you have seen some of my chats before, I've been using Ustream, but Ustream has the drawback that it shows ads in the middle sometimes, and it doesn't let you it gives you very little control about when the ads break in, so you miss parts of what you're watching in your live stream. And to pay for Ustream, now they charge you per viewer, basically, and it just doesn't make sense economically. So we're trying to see if this is going to be a good replacement for it or what. And Wirecast has this totally cool, like, setup thing where I can do things like I can put images up for you. Like, for example, I can put my little, I don't know, cover card up, stuff like that. I can switch it. I can switch it to like a little graphic of like there's my name in the corner and whatnot like that. So I don't know. We'll see. See how it goes. All right. Let's see. Good. All right. So, and then I'm reading I have the chat window open on YouTube, so I can read your things. So far, so good. It's working about the same as Ustream. It's the one thing is I can't see how many people are watching. And on Ustream, at least there was a little number which, when everything was working, would show you how many people were tuned in. I know there's at least 5 or 6 of you in the chat. So, great. Thanks for coming by to see how this all works. Wirecast is not free. There's a free version, but it's like it breaks in every so often and says something like Wirecast, and I'm like, oh, I think so. I paid $200 for this, but at least I paid it just once, as opposed to Ustream Pro, which was going to be $200+ per month, ongoing. So yeah, so we're trying it. It's all an experiment. So hello everyone. I've got a bunch of things piled up here. Some of you who have been following me on social media know that my website is down today. CeciliaTan.com is down. Darren's Guitar Chronicles is down. Everything that was on that whole machine, which was basically all of my websites, plus a couple other miscellaneous things, are all offline. And this was a server of the same age as the Circlet.com server, which died in October, so it's not that surprising that this one went also, given that they were put together with chewing gum and string, and whatnot. So Corwin swears that he's got better backups this time, and he will be able to rebuild the system tonight when he's already got a new machine running, and I don't know. So keep your fingers crossed. But what I'm going to do at the end of this all is I'm going to read today's Darren chapter, which did not appear like it should have. I'll read it aloud and at least get you guys up to speed on what's going on in Darren's life. Darren's life is a lot like mine in some interesting ways, of course, because of course it is. He's my alter ego, right? So, all right. So, what should we talk about? I'm open for questions. Put them in the chat there, or you can text me. Wait, I have a thing where I put my phone number. Check this out. How's that for like professional, cool looking thing? If you don't want people in the social stream chat to see what you're asking me, text me directly. If you're in the U.S., that's my phone number. To ask me anything about writing, BDSM, rock stars, uh, romance, science fiction, erotica, bisexuality, you name it. I mean, those are my usual topics, right? Um, the weather, the New York Yankees, whatever, etc. The I made myself a little. I figure this is fairly informal, but you know, so this is my idea of being a producer for myself. Is that I have just written a list of things that I could talk about, etc. And but trust me, there's no danger of me running out of things to talk about. I mean, it's sort of as people put it, I'm an introvert who can pass as an extrovert. So you know, I'm not being drained because there's no one actually here but me. Um, you know, so I can sort of go on forever. You can't get peopled out when you're the only one here. Um, yeah, exactly. If you want to know what tea I'm drinking, this is a Muscat Oolong from the Aroma Tea Shop in San Francisco, which is one of my favorite tea shops. And if you have a chance to go in San Francisco, the Imperial Tea Court is also there, which is very nice and shishi and extremely well. They're very, very knowledgeable, and you know, Roy Fong is like a living tea expert. But Aroma is a little more funky. The proprietor's name is Heyman, and he's fun, and he also knows a lot about tea and travels to China for cool teas and you know whatnot like that, and is a budding YouTube rap star, I think, also. So if only I knew how to connect videos on YouTube to show in the stream, that would be really cool. I'm sure there's some way to do that, or that the functionality is coming. I just don't know what it is. Because he look up his rap called Tea Master, and that would be cool. I mean, actually, I suppose if I downloaded it, I could upload it like the cat video. You want to see the cat video again? I wanted to see what happens. What happens when I click on this again? Of course, the phone number and everything stays up. Um, so that's Oolong and Earl Grey, who are two of my three cats. These are the two who did not have bladder stone surgery recently. So, but yeah, wanted you to. All right, you guys have seen them. So I get to do cool stuff with this. This is what I'm playing with, right? This software is I can do things like I can show you pictures of. Check this out. This is the Kickstarter mailing part 1 of Darren's Guitar Chronicles that went out on Sunday, and then there were 2 more of similar size, not quite as big, that went out. The international packages went the next day, and then the last stragglers, for example, whose t-shirt sizes I had lost, or you know, whatever, and people had to ask questions or whatever, went out on the 3rd day. So they're all out now. They're gone. If you are a Darren supporter and you have any problem with what I sent you, like I sent you the wrong thing, forgot a thing, etc., you know, all which are all quite possible, just let me know and I will do my best to make it up to you. The actually, here I can put this one up too. Now this is funny. I can look around this graphic. See, because it doesn't take up the whole screen and it's in layers, just like Photoshop. Isn't this cool? I'm having so much fun with this software. But yeah, so now I can do things like point to it, you know. But yeah, anyway, so that was the book that's the cover of the book that we kickstarted, and it's a phone book. And I actually had someone write to me to say, in fact, this is bigger than my local phone book. So that's kind of cool. Not that I want it to be more exciting than the phone book. Hopefully, when people are reading it, they will be more thrilled than they are when they go through their local phone book. But I don't know. You can find some pretty interesting things in the phone book, though. Have you actually tried reading the phone book? Reading the phone book is something that writers used to do before the internet to try to come up with character names. Because you want something that's interesting but still believable, you know. So it's like, of course, the problem with picking a real person's name is that then that person is out there, and if your character becomes infamous, then that poor person is going to be getting, I don't know, phone calls because obviously they're listed in the phone book. We didn't think about those things in the old days. Now I usually, when I come up with a character name, I Google it to see if it's accidentally someone famous or, you know, or infamous, that kind of a thing, because sometimes you have a sound of, you know, a name sounds good in the back of your head and you don't realize it's because you've heard it before. So always Google your character names to try to find out and say them aloud a lot, because if you're going to be reading to audiences and you know, and you discover that this character's name is really awkward to say, or or sounds dirty unintentionally, whatnot. So, I mean, I think I can kind of make almost any of my characters' names sound dirty unintentionally, or intentionally. I guess it would be intentional if I were trying to do it. So, hang on, I gotta put my eyes on the social stream. Oh, interesting. So when the cats are on, does my sound go off? That's an interesting question. I may have to put the microphone in as a separate shot. Oh, this is technical. Interesting. Um, let's see. As you move around, camera adjusts the light settings, making the wall behind you seem brighter and darker. So it does. So it does. I did a reading recently, actually, and I used YouTube Capture, the software on the phone, to record it. And when I uploaded it to YouTube, it went through automatic motion sensing, like to steady a shaky cam. And so the thing was, I move around a little bit while I'm talking, and it was like, so what it did was it sort of zeroes in, and then it makes it look like the background is moving like a ship rocking. And I was like, that is not a good look. And then I couldn't figure out how to undo it without uploading it all completely again. So I was like, oh, that's weird. So I don't know. I should probably just move around less. I'm a radio person by background, not really a television person. So I don't know all these things about, stand still and, whatnot. I did know to put mattifying fluid on so I'm not so shiny. And I have a giant bright light right here because if I don't, you'll see the blue and purple sort of glow from the screen underneath, and that is not a good look. I mean, I've already got terrible dark circles and whatnot like that because it's winter and I am having insomnia and so forth. So it's like, but Ziggy wanted to put makeup on and whatnot, and I was like, no, this is just a test chat. We're just gonna let people see what we look like, So I just tried to make myself unshiny. Um, we'll put actual glitter on for the next one, okay? I promise. So yes. Oh no, Amy says heard me doing cat licking. Okay, good. Pause it, come back and stream and catch up, which is cool, and fancy graphics. Okay, good. Interesting. All right, cool. I'm glad. So thanks for being my test audience, and any of you drop me email or whatever if you have thoughts about how it goes, how it looks, things you think I should know, because there's only so much I can do. If there's no producer here, it's just me, and I'm using the camera that's attached to my Mac, and then you've got a second Mac here as a monitor, but it's not the perfect system, obviously. It's funny because they will let you set up a second camera as a backup and do all this complicated stuff, and I'm like, I don't have the bandwidth to run a second camera though from here. It just, you already tell me that I'm reaching my limit, so but I guess the idea is you could take this software and you could really use it to do like a concert video if you wanted to, and you had multiple cameras and actual cameras as opposed to just computers with cameras built in. And I'm like, that's way beyond what I'm going to attempt to do. So, all right, so let me see what other graphics I have. Okay, I'm going to pump my mailing list, I said. So tomorrow I'm going to be sending out my email list. Nope, wrong one. Oh, no, that's it. Hang on, let me take down the phone number one so that you can see it. So I started an email list, and this is one of those things I have literally resisted starting my own email list for 20 years, and now I think that was stupid. I should have been collecting names all along, because of course social media has not completely taken over the purpose of email. And what I did was I started a MailChimp list. You can go. If you go to CeciliaTan.com. Actually, wait, you can't go there because the site is down. If you go to MailChimp and search for me, though, I'm sure you can find it. But I'll have the website up later, and you'll be able to get to it again. But yeah, the problem is with things like Facebook, for example, they sort of own your followers, not you. And if they delete your account because they think you're violating the terms of service, or if they decide to make it that Facebook has basically done, if you want to still reach the followers who have liked your fan page, you essentially have to pay to reach those followers. You can't just, if I post something now, I think 2% of my followers may see it. A couple of the pages I manage have like 600 plus followers, and 13 or 14 people will see what's posted there. And it's sort of like, okay, this is kind of useless then, that these people have opted in to following me, right? But they're not going to actually see the news that they think they're going to see, blah, blah, blah. So, for example, Facebook just being one of the social media platforms that, like they say, if it's free, that you're not the customer, you're the product, right? So I started a mailing list. It's got about 250 people on it currently, and I'm supposed to send a missive out once a month. I send news about where I'm going to be, and I send a sample story or chapter, and I send some other stuff. And this month I'm going to send a hot sex scene from the BDSM Rockstar book I'm working on right now. It has a title now. It's called Taking the Lead. I did not make that up. My editor came up with that. We knew we wanted something that was sort of rock starry sounding, but or musical sounding, but that also had sort of a BDSM connection, and that's what the Hachette marketing department liked that one. I liked that one of all the ones that they suggested the best. So, and I had come up with some really terrible ones, let me tell you. But and we probably still will use some bad puns on the word beat later, and so forth. But the drummer is a character later, so perhaps we'll save that for him. Taking the Lead, it's the lead singer's book, and don't get technical with me about it being the lead guitar that we're talking about, but he's the next book. So I'm going to read. I'm going to include that in the newsletter. A nice hot sex scene from there, and some things like that. Of course, it's a very rough draft, so it's a good scene, but it might not end up in the book. Is the thing? So, so you get to see something really behind the scenesy if you want to read it. But anyway, so pumping the newsletter. All right, who's got questions? You could experiment was putting the second screen. That's true, actually, and I already have the two computers at two different levels, but they weren't quite right. So I need a box that's a little bit higher for the one, and then they can both be. I had that set up like one of the very first video chats I did, and it worked really well. And then for some reason I don't have that box on my desk anymore. And yeah, good thing to do. So one of the people in the chat, as those of you who are following along in the chat, is Laura Antoniou, who just ran a huge Kickstarter with my help a little bit. I fomented her into doing it, I guess, somewhat. I said, look, it wasn't that hard. And, and she's got 500 packages to send out. So, get lots of friends and fans to come over and pack the things. And it's going to take a whole weekend to do. So, don't rush. Just take your time. We'll get through it. But yes. But yeah. Anyway, what was I going to say? Actually, as long as we're on the subject of the Darren Kickstarter, I want to show off some of the things that we got. It's like, so I made these tote bags. These are actual cotton canvas tote bags. They're not like that fake, poly ply, I don't know, stuff that's like a handy wipe, whatever. They're real cotton. And that's the band logo. Because we hit our stretch goal, I made everybody a backstage pass and sent it in the package. I made t-shirts. So, sorry. I'm used to things being in a different setting. Sorry. I could probably reverse that setting. And then here's the actual book. So this is what I mean by phone book. Yeah, it's gigantic. And if I were going to do it all again, no, I can't make it any smaller. It's a web serial. It's there's no abridging it. The important stuff happens in the interstices of Darren's life too. It's not like the momentous events don't take up that much words, really. Partly because of the way he tells it too. But it's not like there's a car chase or something that takes up 20 pages and then there's 2 pages of processing. No, there's somebody says something once and there's 20 pages of processing, Okay, maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but those of you who read it know what I'm talking about. All right. Yes. So what I was going to say, though, is that, so I'm doing a Fan Works initiative, if you want to call it that, or fest, maybe, I don't know. So I've got extra tote bags, I've got some extra t-shirts, I've got extra backstage passes, and some of them are because I forgot to put them into people's packages. Once they have let me know who they are, I send out the straggling things, because I know there are a few, because I'm like, this is too many, and I don't think that they sent me extras. Is I'm offering them basically as prizes, or I'm calling it a bounty, because I don't want it to sound like there's a competition. It's not a prize like there's first prize, second prize. It's a bounty for fan works about Darren's Guitar Chronicles. So my idea is, I just wanted to do something with the extras, and of course I'm going to sell them on the website, but you know, I wanted to do something more, something different than just be like, okay, now these are up for sale for whoever wants to buy merch later or who missed the Kickstarter, blah, blah, blah. So I've already had some people send me fan fiction, some fan art. People are making fan memes. Did I put a meme in here? I didn't. Uh, Someone just made me a huge YouTube playlist of all sort of songs that relate to Darren's Guitar Chronicles in some way, you know, etc. So it's really kind of cool, and just a way that fans can have fun. And you know, there's a way in which I feel like, okay, I'm the creator. I'm supposed to be the, you know, the what's the, you know, the queen of the canon, right? But really, I feel like I'm just the number one fan of my own work. So you know, and it's something with something like Darren, where I don't actually know what he's thinking a lot of the time. It's really just, I'm just waiting to find out, just like all the rest of you. You know, what is he going to say next? Where is he going? What is he talking about? You know, so you know, there's a way in which I'm just like, I just get to squeal along with everyone else. And like, that's kind of cool. So, so the fest, whatever, is between now till Valentine's Day, and or if I run out of things sooner than that, but I don't think I will. And if I do, I'll have to come up with some other incentive. But anyway, so those are the incentives I'm offering. Tote bags, especially, because then they don't have to be sized. Whereas, you know, like what I have of extra T-shirts is like I will only have certain sizes and, you know, whatnot like that. Anyway, so I was going to say, we'll see if it works, but I've already got people sending me stuff, so I guess some people are enjoying themselves already, so this is good. Let's see, and I'll start posting some of them. I've been posting some of the memes already. I guess I'm planning to start posting some of them probably the week between Christmas and New Year's, which is a time when traditionally a lot of people get caught up on the site if they've been lagging behind, and you know, or they escape from their family obligations and stuff by reading what's going on in my world, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, so we'll see. Yes. Or yes, or you send me crazy sending stuff. No, it's the more the better. The more the better, honestly. I started a Pinterest page. Pinterest is sort of new for me. I'm not a super visual person compared to a lot of people, and so I started a Pinterest page to put the DGC fan art and fan memes on, and then I had also started I've got a board for Slow Surrender, which is my previous BDSM romance novel series with Hachette. I started putting up some things like casting the characters and, you know, some stuff like that. But, you know, casting is one of those things too, because I think of it so, I think of it the way a casting director would, where it's like, well, no, I don't have a specific real person in mind. I know what my character looks like in my mind. I've invented them, but I could picture different people playing the part if they were dressed right and learned the right accent, and, you know, so forth and so on. And a lot of romance writers do it the other way around, where it's like they pick someone who is their hero or their heroine or whatever, and then they put them together. And perfectly legitimate way of doing it. It's just not how my mind works, and not the way my mind ever worked, really. So, you know, and then even when I start with somebody who's real, they always diverge from them physically by the time I get to the second or third chapter. And I don't know why. It's like I just can't keep, you know, I don't know. There's always something that I'm looking for in me that is in my head that is somehow not reflected in the real world. That's why I write fiction, is to make that as real as possible. So I can sometimes cast people, but, you know, like when I read other people's books, sometimes I'll picture a specific actor or something, but not usually, you know. Probably the closest I have to that is actually I just finished reading Laura Antoniou's The Inheritor, which she ran the Kickstarter for and whatever, and I was the latest proofreader on, because I was typesetting it, and you know, had to give it one more pass, so I mainlined it over the course of 4 days. I had started it, I think, 10 times, and just didn't have enough time to sit down and really do the work. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to have to wait until I can force myself to push everything else aside and do nothing but read this book, which is what I did. And there's a character in there who, in my mind, I cast Ken Watanabe as the who most of you would recognize from Inception as the rich Japanese businessman from Inception. So yeah, his voice, everything. It was just like, okay, that's one that made a match for me, but it doesn't always happen that way. Anyway, I see someone else doesn't cast characters either. Anyone have any questions? Remember, type them into the YouTube stream or text them to me. Where's my phone number again? Phone number. Ta-da! Feel free to text them. Yes, that's my real phone number. People are like, I couldn't find your phone number. I'm like, it's on my website. Like, I'm not hard to reach, folks. I'm not like a secretive recluse, really. Okay, maybe a little bit of a recluse, but not secretive. Just never been secretive. Is not in my nature. Just has never worked for me. What's this? Oh, okay, right. That's the exhortation to join my email list. Right now, CeciliaTan.com is down, so you will have to join via MailChimp, I think. I don't know. I don't know what happens if you just search MailChimp for somebody's email address. Do I come up or not? We'll find out. All right, let's talk about some things I did recently. This is cool. So I finally was in a book that went to #1 on a bestseller list at Amazon. I'm going to put a little screen capture of that. It's a bundle of dystopian fiction called Damaged Worlds. It's 5 different novellas, novels, whatever. There are varying lengths. Mine is a novella. It's around 10,000 words. And it's 99 cents for the bundle of all 5. So that's kind of cool and is one of the ways that people, are promoting things. It's me, Kat Rambo, Louise Marley, Janine Southard, and I think there's one other person in it. And maybe that's all of us. There's 4 of us, and then one person has 2 books in it. So that's why it's 5 books total, 4 authors. So those of you who have been following me for a very long time will have read it already. It's a piece called In Silver A, which was in the 90s, I want to say around like 1995 maybe, was in Absolute Magnitude magazine. And it is a dystopian future, and it's sort of it's essentially a male-male romance, erotic romance, no less. And it's one of those things where the editor of Absolute Magnitude essentially called me up and was like, I have to buy this story. And normally I would tell you you have to take the sex scene out, except I realized that if I take the sex scene out, then the plot falls apart. Yes, that was my purpose exactly. And I said, if you can take the sex scene out of something, then why is it in there? If you can take any scene out and what you have left still stands, that's what you should be doing no matter what it is. If you can't have a car chase in there for no reason, you can't have a fight scene in there for no reason. It has to be central to the development of the characters, the plot, the outcome, the denouement, etc. And yeah, the story makes no sense without it. So yeah, it was in there, and it was in black feathers also. So some of you may have read it before. Those of you who have not, 99 cents, you can get it and a bunch of other stuff. And so yeah, so that went to #1 on the not the dystopian fiction list. I've already forgotten now. Amazon has hundreds and hundreds of bestseller lists of different categories, and so it went to #1 in science fiction anthologies, and then I think also it was in the top 5 or something in dystopian fiction is its own category. So it's like it was there with like the Hunger Games and stuff. So it's like, oh, it's kind of cool. So that was neat. And Janine put it together, and she's awesome. So I highly recommend you check out her stuff too. Janine Southard. Let's see, what else can I tell you? The other kind of cool new thing that has come out recently is, here's another one I can look from the side. This is the new cover of my Magic University series, The Siren and the Sword. All right, it's silly for me to be better. I'm gonna blank myself out. Now can you still hear me? Even though I have taken my picture off. This is what I'm experimenting with. So tell me in the little social stream here when my voice dropped out and when it didn't, or because I've been talking basically consistently. And see how this thing works. So this technology, all right, I'm gonna put my shot back in. So, I see. Good. And I'm gonna take this off. Nope, that's cat photos. Here we go. Put myself back in. Um, sorry, what was I going to say? The Siren and the Sword. I originally wrote this book in 2009. Actually, I wrote it in 2008. It was published in 2009. It's one of the first books I wrote for Ravenous Romance, which is a company I worked for a lot previously. And it's my Harry Potter Goes to College novel, basically. It's about a magical university hidden inside Harvard. Our hero is a sort of Harry Potter type character, where he's a sort of clueless but good meaning, well intentioned sort of good guy who discovers he's magical when he gets to school and is, sort of thrust into this magical world that he didn't know existed. It diverges, I think, pretty solidly because the rest of it, the next 4 years of the novels, it's 4 years of college, so there's 4 novels, are basically my critique of the Harry Potter books and are all the things I feel are wrong with them in a lot of ways, and yet are still an homage and are still, what I love about them. It's like, yes, we get to play with magic and, so forth and so on, but I get to, in my universe, for example, the wand cannot be used like a gun. Spells can go around corners, things like that. So, yeah. Line of sight is not necessary for magic to take place, the way that it is in Rowling's universe. So, things like that. And the way good and evil works is very, very different, obviously, also. Not obviously, but the way good and evil works is different. Let's put it that way. And speaking as a Slytherin, the way good and evil works in my world is a bit more complicated than it is in the YA universe. This is a new adult erotic romance series. So, but yeah, it was kind of cool. Actually, I'll put it up one more time. The kind of cool thing about this was the artist is someone I know through Harry Potter fan fiction and fan art, and is one of my favorite fan artists. And she is the one who did these covers, and she's working on the next one right now. Book 2 will be out in January. It'll be out, I think, January 20th, 21st. I've forgotten the exact date. But once my website is back, you'll be able to look it up. And Frost, who is everyone's other favorite character, will be on book 2. That's Kyle on book 1. Obviously, he's the hero. But then we're gonna put a different character in each one of the other books in the series. So kind of cool, and just really, really neat. Garth's World. Yes, that's what I thought. When I first put that image up and I took myself out of the background, I turned my audio off by accident also, because it's built into the shot. Each shot you can set what its audio settings are. It's, it's opacity, it's this, it's that. So, yeah, so I have to be conscious of that. Or I have to set a separate shot which is audio only and put that on the top layer, so that will be running all the time. If I know what I'm doing is a live chat. Of course, I wouldn't want that to be the thing on the top if I'm going to play, say the cat licking video had a background of its own, and I didn't want my voiceover to appear over it if I only wanted pre-recorded, etc. So these are the things I'm becoming a video producer in the back of my mind. There goes that lightness and darkness thing again. It's like there's one spot where like I reflect onto the camera or something, and then it totally changes the color of the background. I should probably work on just, I don't know, on finding a place other than here, this spot to sit where I've got this white, white walls in my office, and I'm in the attic, so the walls are at an angle, and whatnot, and then it's sort of probably not the world's best backdrop for this sort of thing. What I should really do is do this in the living room, where the backdrop can be a wall-to-ceiling bookshelves, and look very booky about it, and then you have nice depth of field because there's stuff and whatnot. But then I'd have to go down to the living room, and I'd have to set up chairs in there, and office is easier, and then up here, if the doorbell rings or whatever, which has happened in, I think, probably 4 out of 5 chats that I've done, somebody's had called on the phone, showed up at the door, needed to be let in, etc. I mean, just Murphy's Law, right? So far today, we're doing pretty good, because it's because this one's just a practice chat, right? So who cares? Let's see, what else should I tell you about? The year-end stuff. I surely should do a year-end chat at some point, or whatever. I have all these blog posts that I need to write. I have not had time to write them. I'm too busy writing the novel and finishing other deadlines and whatnot like that. Been meaning to write this blog post for, I think it's 3.5, 4 weeks now, since the day that I actually paid off my credit card debt. And what's so significant about that is the last time my credit card debt was paid off was in 1998, and I paid it off using the advance from a book. And then I have not haven't done it since. That, it's just been getting worse and worse ever since the 90s. Well, okay, I've actually been whittling it down a bunch the last couple of years, where my editing work was bringing in fairly steady income, and so, but it was still going slower than one might have hoped. But yeah, so I paid off my credit card debt for the first time. That is a huge step for me, and yeah, part of it was the advance on the next series of books, and part of it was the royalties that I received from the previous series with Hachette. So, not a New York Times bestseller yet, but I didn't have to be in order to just, to make strides that were big enough to cut down what had been a good high 5 figures debt. So, kind of cool. And I keep meaning to blog about it because, like when I was saying, I'm not secretive. It's like, I would like other people to know sort of what, and there's this sort of question with writers, especially, where people are like, well, what is success? And I'm like, well, to me, artistic success has to come first, because if you don't have that, then what is the rest of it? What are you doing with the rest of it? Sort of like, whereas, I suppose I'm trying to think, is there a way that you can just have financial success with zero artistic success? Probably not. I mean, maybe eventually, when, I don't know, writers are just repeating themselves, or but you get into writing in the first place because there's something about you that you're trying to express, and you get into writing the genre you're writing because nobody's like, oh, I'm going to write science fiction because I can make a mint doing that. I mean, there is no genre really that's like that. I mean, maybe how-to books sometimes, but yeah, so it's like, but yeah, artistic success comes first, and then what is financial success? To some people, it's paying off their credit cards. Other people are like, I want to put my kids through college. I want to buy a house. I want to have a house in Beverly Hills, whatever. It's like, I don't know. I'm not the house in Beverly Hills type, so, to me, I feel like I've achieved a measure of success that I didn't know I was ever going to. I grew up under the I grew up reading, what is that magazine? Writer's Digest, which is still exists today. Magazines still exist. But, when I was in high school, someone got me a subscription to it. And what I didn't know is, at the time, there's sort of an industry around wannabe writers. And that what Writer's Digest does, since they sort of cater to that audience, and they assume, though, that if you read it regularly, you eventually become a professional writer, and then you don't need the same advice over and over again. And so they have a sort of cycle of advice that they repeat. I did not know this till recently, when someone told me, maybe about 10 years ago, who used to work for them, that, so you see certain topics come around again and again. And then, and one of the things that they would do on a regular basis was they would run polls of how many people are making their living from writing, and, so forth. And they would interview people from, the Authors Guild or the PEN American Center, or, whoever, and whatnot. And so one of the factoids that I grew up with was the fact that under 3,000 people in the 1980s, anyway, in the United States, writing in the English language, made their sole living from fiction. And those people included, like Stephen King and a bunch of people like that. And what I can say is that, well, but part of it is that some people, even if they can make a perfectly good living from fiction, also still have another job, because they are, they don't quit their job as an editor, or as a dry cleaner, or as a fisherman, or whatever, their other job is. But that is very small compared to the population of the United States, and compared to the number of people writing. In fact, compared just to the circulation of Writer's Digest magazine, that under 3,000 people were fully employed writers, was sort of a dose of reality to me, as I thought, okay, well, so that's, you either need to be really in that top 0.1% or whatever it is, or you need to be resigned to the fact that you probably are going to have another job, and, so forth. And I always thought my job was, I was going to go into radio and records was what I was going to do. I was going to be a radio disc jockey, potentially, or an A&R rep, which would give me very odd hours, which would give me lots of time to write. This is my thought. I always thinking about, like, okay, and how can I get a job that won't require me to get up early in the morning? these are the things I thought about as a teenager. When other people are like, how can I make enough money? I'm like, how can I get a job where it won't require me to get up first thing in the morning? And then I ended up going to book publishing instead of radio and records in the end. And I did have to get up in the morning, but only for a couple of years before I quit. So, and started my own company. And office hours at Circlet Press do not start until 12 noon. For this reason. On the other hand, as many of you know, you can still find me online at 2 a.m. And sometimes people text me and they're like, "You're the only person I can think of I could text at 2 a.m. and it would not be an emergency." So I was like, "Well, that's because I'm up. These are peak hours for me." Are you kidding? So, and you guys are getting ahead of me in the chat here. Let's see. Let's see. All right. Financial success without artistic success, Twilight. So I think Stephanie Meyer did do what she set out to do with those books. I mean, and her editor was not dumb. I mean, she knew that she had a winner on her hands, even if we can make fun of almost every other sentence in it. Seriously. And I don't know what the raw manuscript looked like, but I think she knew she had something that was going to hit a nerve. And then it's kind of interesting that then 50 Shades of Grey, which of course started life as a Twilight fanfic, also has some really terribly written prose and just some, things that in a literary sense you can make fun of. That are easy to ridicule. And it's sort of like, and yet somehow it connects with people. So, there's that question of at what stage do you count it as artistic success? I mean, it's the same thing in music. You can say, well, there are those who will say, well, if it's not classical music and it's not performed in a music hall and, live in front of rich white people in suits, then it's not real music. And obviously I don't hold to that. Obviously I don't hold to that attitude myself, but that doesn't mean that there isn't pop music out there that is terrible, because there is, and which has huge success. But the question is, it's like, whose rubric are you judging it on? And as far as the artist being satisfied with what they did, I think that's the first thing that has to happen. Is artistically you have expressed yourself, and that is the most important basic thing. That if you're not happy with that, then the whole rest of it kind of, the whole rest of it becomes morally bankrupt at that point. But, regardless of what people from the outside judge you as. So this is the existential crisis that Darren is going through right now in Darren's Guitar Chronicles, where he's just like, hang on a second. Are you telling me that authenticity is a lie? It's like, well, no, but, you have to come up with your own way of understanding how you as an artist relate to your inner life and your outer life, because they're always going to be opposed. So, anyway, let's see. Forks, Washington used to be a nice place to visit. Yeah, I guess it probably was. All right, I'm gonna read this chapter before I run out of time, or before anything goes wrong technically. So for those of you who are fans of Darren's Guitar Chronicles, here's today's chapter that didn't appear because the website is down. For those of you who are not fans of Darren's Guitar Chronicles, the thing you need to know is that Darren's story is told in the first person from his point of view. It's in the reminiscent voice, though. But he gets caught up in what he's retelling, and he does not write like a writer. He writes like a musician. So I have to fix him up from time to time, but so I apologize. It's also not really written to be read out loud, so I may have to fix some things. Things that look one way on the page sometimes don't sound exactly the same. And I didn't practice this, of course, because it's just a test chat. So, and he's at home in his house in Alston, which is where he lives at this point. This is December of 1990 when this chapter is taking place, and he's going to get a phone call from his manager, who is also a close friend and so forth. So the chapter titles are always titles of songs from the 1980s. Or now that we're in 1990, I'm using almost all songs from 1990 as a point, because 1990 to me was a year when talk about being morally bankrupt and artistically bankrupt. The music industry was at a stage where there were almost everything that was coming out was unbelievably prepackaged, pre-planned, it was a very, very low point for popular music. Let's put it that way. And something is going to have to change. And the '90s did eventually change it, fortunately. But yes, the '90s eventually did deliver on the promises of the '80s. It just took a while, and it took some breaking down of corporate culture and so forth to make it happen. All right, so this one's called My Prerogative, which, as you know, is a song by Bobby Brown, who I still have not forgiven for for everything with Whitney Houston. So don't take that as an endorsement that I used his song title. And now I got to remember Darren's accent. I really can't remember Darren's accent exactly. I haven't lived in New Jersey in so long that can't quite do it. All right, I can kind of do it a little bit, but all right. I was still having nightmares and annoying dreams. Ziggy wasn't in all of them, but he was in most. There was this one where Bart and Colin and me were in a boat, rowing from an island to the shore, and we were taking turns rowing, but we never got where we were going. I woke up with my arms feeling tired. That morning, or afternoon, whatever, I count it as morning until I eat something or the sun sets, whichever comes first. I went right to the basement, still in pajama pants and the t-shirt I'd slept in, and made a demo tape of a song. I already had most of the words and most of the music, but I had not nailed it down until that moment. It was a kind of companion song to the one Ziggy and I had written in Los Angeles. It was another meta song about being a song and about being alone. I basically turned the idea of trying to remember how a forgotten song goes into a metaphor for lost love. Yeah, I wrote a song about love without using the word love. Well, okay, it's in there once, but only once. I was listening back to the demo tape for the third time, trying to figure out if I was really finished fucking around with it and starting to realize that I hadn't even had a glass of water since I got up, and maybe this was not such a good idea, when I heard the phone upstairs ringing. I had neglected to bring the cordless to the basement with me, so I ran up trying to answer it before the machine could get it. That would be a good excuse to go into the kitchen and eat something. "Yellow," I said, grabbing the kitchen phone off the wall. "Darren, motherfuck," Corinne said, clearly ripshit about something more serious than the fact that it had taken me a long time to get to the phone. "What? What's wrong?" "Remember I said I had some kind of legal paper addressed to you?" "Yeah." "Remember how you were a part owner of Digger's company?" Oh, that sinking feeling. Was that ever official? It was, and it is. Did I ever make any money from it? You didn't, but that doesn't negate the fact that he gave you stock in the company. I sat down in one of the kitchen chairs. There were only 3 of them. I'm not sure where the 4th one was. In the sunroom, maybe. Okay, so what's the legal notice? You're being sued. By whom this time? BNC. Motherfuck! That's what I said. I told you I was against this whole nailing Digger to the wall idea. I laid my head down on the kitchen table, holding the phone to my ear. Fuck. Well, okay, I don't actually know what this means, but I'm assuming it's not good? Corinne said, "I have a call in to Feinbaum about it. He might laugh it off, or he might say we're idiots to not realize this would have happened." She sighed. "The other thing which is troubling me is that we haven't actually gotten a dime from Megastar." Oh, you mean the parent company that owns BNC now? Yeah. I don't know if Ziggy's seen any of the money yet either, but I have to assume maybe there are more countersuits being filed or something? I don't know. Why would that stop them from honoring the contract, though? Won't that just create even more suits? That's just how these companies are sometimes, Dee. Ugh, that had certainly been our experience so far. Okay, so how bad is it? I meant the money. I'm working on the year-end financials now. Courtney's tuition's paid, but she should probably take the summer off to work. And you should not buy a car unless you're going to get a $500 junker from the want ads. Well, nothing like having the other shoe dropped right on your head. Okay, what month are we going to be short paying the mortgage? Well, Colin will be fully employed January through April 15th as usual. Don't worry about Colin right now. I mean, just me and Chris in the house. Well, some songwriting royalties are going to come in, but we don't really know how much. Assuming it's similar to last year, May or June if you don't get another gig. And that includes what Wenco's supposed to fork over? Yes, that's counting that. Okay, that's not as dire as it could be. True, we've got time to line you up some work. In fact, don't say it. Don't say what? You're about to spend Christmas with some guys who already have their entire summer of shed and festival dates booked. Yes. You don't sound happy about that. It's just that I haven't eaten yet today. Motherfuck, Darren, I'm coming over there right now. I'll pick up Chinese on the way. Indian. Get Indian, please? Okay, Indian. She hung up without saying goodbye. I decided it would be best if I were showered and dressed before she arrived. So there you go. That was today's chapter. Sigh. Yeah, talk about Darren being my alter ego. No, I'm not being sued by any of my publishers, but the music industry has a lot of litigation and, you know, this, that, and the other. And yeah, anyway, let's see. Oh, what's that? Okay. I want to grow up and do Corinne's job. Corinne's job is an interesting job too. I almost went into that side of the business. And if I had gone into A&R, probably that's what I would have gotten out of A&R into doing was artist management. But I sort of smartly decided that I needed to make the decision to put most of my creative energy into my own creative efforts instead of facilitating those of others as much. I mean, I own a publishing house and I help a lot of writers with their careers and, you know, so forth. But it's different than being an agent or a manager, you know. But in fact, when I quit my day job in book publishing, it was when I kind of had the realization that I needed to put more energy into my own creative efforts and less into the creative efforts of others. So I used to work at Beacon Press here in Boston. That's how I ended up in Boston. And I was in the marketing department and had a lot of fun. I loved working there. It was a great place to work. The books are interesting. Authors are interesting, you know, so forth and so on. But I wasn't doing any of my own writing, really. I mean, you know, on the weekends a little bit, and just wasn't keeping up. And yeah, so when I quit, I went to get a master's degree in writing, which would force me to write. And, you know, a master's program is a great boot camp for writers. It's not the only way, though. I mean, you know, obviously there's NaNoWriMo and there's writing, you know, writing groups and there's, you know, whatnot. But I took the plunge and, you know, did the grad school thing and got a master's degree. And I know many people have done it since. So, you know, yeah. Anyone who wants to talk good or bad about grad school, I'm here. Yeah, there were good and bad things about it, you know. But yeah, overall, it was worth it, and I didn't go into debt to do it because, thank you, Dad, for paying for it. Yeah, which is one of the things that really made my decision for me about going to grad school, was that I knew he would pay for it. So the support of my parents when I was in my early 20s and, you know, really struggling was crucial. And so yeah, I cannot thank them enough for that, because if I had been forced to stay, you know, in a 9-to-5 job, I don't think I'd still be alive now, honestly. For those of you who don't know the story, I had cervical cancer when I was in college, or just graduated, and had got it treated, had it physically cut out, you know, whatnot. Sorry, I'm being gross. And but, you know, cancer is a fairly serious thing when you're only 22, 23 years old, you know. And then after I'd been working in publishing for a couple of years, it basically started to recur. And when it comes back, it's worse, you know. So I was having abnormal pap smears. That's what the pap smear looks for, right? And my doctor basically said, you know, I think the problem is that your immune system is so wrecked from stress that it's, you know, because he's like, you get a cold and you're sick for 10 days instead of 2 or 3 days. And you know, just over and over and over again, these things were happening to me where I was getting sick all the time and, you know, whatnot. And then the cancer started to recur, and he's like, this is related to it. It's, you know, your body's not taking care of itself because you're so stressed out. I think you should see a counselor, and you should go to stress management, and, you know, so forth and so on. And what stress management taught me was not like how to breathe and center myself. And, you know, what they do is they teach you to focus on what's important in your life. And that this majority source of stress for almost everyone in that whole seminar was that you're not doing what you were put on earth to do. And I said, well, I know what I was put on earth to do. It was right. So why am I not doing that? You know, like, and quit my job, went to grad school, and was cancer-free in 3 months without doing anything other than that. So it was like, okay, that's pretty strong endorsement of, you know, of taking care of yourself and doing what, you know, God put you on earth to do, because he's going to take you off of it if you don't. So yeah, so I got that lesson really early, and I've had to remind myself of it a couple of times where I, maybe got a little too into doing too much else or worrying about money too much or, whatever. But, it's taken over 20 years, but here I am. So, let's see. All right, coming up on 8 o'clock. So, all right, any last technical things we should test? I think I showed you all the little graphics. I said, okay, well, here's one of Corwin and my cats. Yeah, that's Oolong, actually. And this is from last Thanksgiving. That's why Corwin's wearing the black chef's jacket and the black chef hat. And that was when Oolong made a quick appearance. Oh, wait, someone did text me and said, what does it say? All right. Someone's asking, are there any writing projects that come up that do not involve BDSM? Yes, there are some, and besides Darren, which is very not kinky. Darren is the most vanilla, I think, actually, of all my characters. He just doesn't go there, it's interesting because, like, I don't know whether to count Magic University as BDSM or not, because it's sort of some very out there things happen, but it's really not. It's not like dom sub kind of thing, and it's not like when there's bondage in it. It's not, I don't know. It's ritual bondage. It's not like, I don't know. And now that I think about it, there are a lot of times when when Kyle says, no, I don't want to be tied down. I don't want to be blindfolded, and whatever, and that kind of a thing. And whoever he's doing the ritual with respects that, and that kind of stuff, because I guess because it really isn't going there, and in my brain, I know that I don't want to be going there. And, there's not that there isn't plenty of drama and plenty of, kind of, sex, which is kinky in its way, but, yeah, I don't know. These taking the lead in the 2 books that are following after it are going to take up a lot of my writing time, though. Trying to do that and Darren for the next year or so are going to take up a lot of my writing time. There is this male cyberpunk romance that I've been trying to write for a while that I got maybe a third of the way through, and I've just been too busy to finish it. I have the plot all plotted out and whatnot like that, and that one is not BDSM. It is just, it's got sort of, I don't know, it's got these sort of cyberpunk aspects to it that make it interesting and different and weird, but it's not like Whips and Chains. Yeah, I don't know when I'm going to get to that exactly, but it's in the process. In the BDSM basket, of course, that I still want to write a sequel to The Prince's Boy, but that hasn't happened yet. That's just been such on the back burner. But you already read Magic University. All right, fine. At some point, there will probably be a Magic University sequel also, honestly. There's grad school, right? So, and I've got some short stories in that universe that I want to write too. And I want to fill in the backgrounds of some of the other characters, and there's so much that I want to do. But all right, we've come up on 8 o'clock. Any last questions? I mean, obviously, it's not like I'm not on a timer here where like they're gonna cut me off or something. It's my television channel. I can do what I want. Right? That's what I should do. I should make little credits that'll like roll up the screen. Maybe for next time. I like to play with this software a little bit more. I don't know what my next official chat is going to be. Darren Book 6, the volume 6 of the ebooks is going to come out. I originally had announced it for January 5th, and I realized I'm going to be in Disney World January 5th on an actual vacation. I know, can you believe that? So I'm going to, so I moved it to December 29th, which is the Monday between Christmas and New Year. I don't know, maybe I should do an actual official Darren related chat at some point. I should probably do when Magic University 2, The Tower and the Tears comes out in its new edition. That'll be January 21st, 22nd, something like that. Maybe I should do one then. I don't know. Now that I have this technology, I should use it, right? But I have to figure it out. Let's see. Should I pitch anything else while I'm here? Let's see. Color dolls to play with the lights. Yeah, okay. I have stuff to play with the colors of the lights. The really bright light you see is actually my happy light. So it's my, my solar, what do you call it? Wavelength light, whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. And it should look like I'm on the internet, though, right? I shouldn't look like I'm in a TV studio. I should make it look like I'm actually sitting in my office, which I am. I'm surprised that no cats got in the way of this one. But I don't know. I fed them right before, and now they ate and they took a nap, I think. So otherwise, usually they're all up in my business, like, "Hey, mom, what are you doing?" There's a couple of chats where I've got a cat right here, and yeah. But all right. You all have my email addresses, my Twitter feeds, etc., etc. You all know how to reach me. That's how you knew to be in this chat in the first place. So come on over and let me know any other feedback about how this thing went, whatnot like that, and I will happily incorporate it into my production notes for the next one. Thanks all for joining me, and I will sign off and see you all later. Here's my title card again. Haha.